Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's Resideo webinar session. We are going to be providing an overview of our connected thermostat portfolio. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us. My name is Jamie Quanrud. I'm part of the Resideo sales training team, and on behalf of all of us today, I'd like to welcome you to our training session. Before we get started with our technical presentation, I'm going to cover just a few administrative items for you. Make sure that you join us every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. This is the time every week that we give you an opportunity to learn about our products. We are very excited that our October training schedule will be up on the webinar very shortly, so be sure to check out our website for our future webinars on a variety of topics. Make sure you go to resideo.com/webinars and navigate to either the HVAC and or the plumbing tabs to find the webinars that you might be interested in. Additionally, we do record these sessions, and on that same website underneath the webinar recordings tab, you can find those recorded sessions as well. For those of our contractors who are joining us for today's live session and you are interested in earning one NATE continuing education credit, there are just a few things to note. If you provided your NATE ID on your registration form for today's session, we are going to submit that information to NATE for your attendance of today's live session. However, we won't need any additional information from you at this time if you completed that process. If you did not provide us with your NATE ID on that registration form for today's webinar and you'd like to receive credit for attending our live session, we do ask that you email your first name, your last name, your NATE ID, and the date of the session that you attended to homes.university@resideo.com within 1 week from today. We do submit this information to NATE 1 week following the close of each of our training sessions. Any requests that are sent outside of 1 week from today's session can't be processed. And then as a final reminder, we can only process requests for NATE credits when you attend the live webinar session, and we are unable to process requests if you are watching a recorded version of this session. If you'd like more information about the NATE program, please visit their website at www.natex.org. And then one quick note before we begin our technical presentation, just a reminder, all of our attendees are muted. However, if you do have questions at any point during our technical presentation, we invite you to use the Q&A feature that is found in your Zoom webinar controls at the bottom of your screen to ask a question. We are going to reserve the last few minutes of our time today to answer those questions. So as we progress through our technical training today, please be sure to ask any questions that you may have in that Q&A feature so we can be sure to address it at the end of today's session. Now we're going to turn our presentation over to John Battaglia. He is one of our Resideo distributor sales reps serving our customers out on the East Coast, specifically in Maryland. And we're glad to have John here with us today to share his knowledge of our connected portfolio. John, we're going to hand things over to you for a technical presentation. Thanks so much for being here with us today.
Great, thank you, Jamie. I appreciate it, and I thank everyone for coming out today. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a good look at the connected portfolio. This is a very interesting time in how we are now being able to have our houses adjust to us as opposed to we adjust to our houses, unlike anything else in our average day. So now we have the controls that are right for you. And if you're looking here, this is our overall of our connected portfolio, starting with our Z-Wave and moving up to our most complex. What's really great about the Honeywell Home portfolio from Resideo is that we don't cookie cutter you as the contractor into one control and try to make you figure out how to make it all work. Knowing that houses are just as different today from house to house, and they're not all cookie cutter themselves. So giving you that capability in a lot of price points and capability is really the cornerstone of our program. So first, to truly understand what we have a simplified program and a portfolio to put together to meet your needs that are easy, they're accurate, and they're really designed for the trades and contractors just like you and me. And you know, they're easy to use, they're precise, the accuracy and getting the equipment to run as efficiently as possible is #1 goal for us. We have a nearly universal application. We want to keep callbacks to a minimum, and then also have the capability of upgrading millions of homes that already have a footprint out there and easily upgrade to a connected portfolio. In order for you to truly understand what we're working at, there's 2 things that you need to understand. And it's the communication protocols, not only in the aspect of how does the equipment communicate with itself and the different pieces that are put together, but then also how does the homeowner or customer interact with their system outside of going directly to the thermostat face. And that's really done today in 3 different ways. We have our proprietary RedLINK wireless technology, which I'll explain later. It's also done using Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi basically is using the existing internet signal throughout the house to open that protocol up and allow you to interact with your system without going directly to thermostat. And then the final way is also through Z-Wave or Z-Wave Plus, which has now been upgraded to, and that allows you to integrate other systems in the house together through a hub, and I'll go through it a little bit as we come up. So those are the 3 main ways. So what is a communication protocol? Basically, it's 2 parts. So from the equipment perspective is how do the different items in the HVAC system talk to each other, whether it's the outdoor unit and the condenser to the air handler to the thermostat. And that's done in a bunch of different ways, whether it's through wires or through wireless communication. And the takeaway being is that the biggest difference is how the format and frequency is transmitted. So that's the first part to it. And here's a little breakdown of how that kind of looks. So network access. So we have Wi-Fi is an open protocol, which means that it's wide open. You do everything you need to do, and then the Wi-Fi signal in the house talks to the thermostat, and then that communicates to the phones or tablets or computers out through the internet. Z-Wave is a little different. It uses a radio signal to talk back and forth between a hub, a master hub, and then communicates with its accessories. So in the case of the HVAC system, which would be the thermostat, and it would talk that way, which also allows the homeowner to interact with their security systems, lights, and whatever else they can home automate. And then there's a hub for that, and it's like a hub system for that. And then finally is our RedLINK system, which is really great for the retrofit market where you're making repairs because it doesn't require wires. All right. They all have capabilities to interact with the equipment. It's just how that they do it. Wi-Fi and Z-Wave requires wires, and that's how everything talks. So you run the thermostat wire to the equipment, outside, air handlers, sensors, all that other stuff like that. RedLINK allows us to do it without wires. And then the benefits each have their own benefits. Wi-Fi is very inexpensive to add in. RedLINK will save you money in other ways, in fact, of labor savings and wiring and retrofitting, and particularly when you want to upgrade a system in a house that doesn't have enough wires in the wall, we can bypass that system. And then Z-Wave allows the home monitoring, or basically professionally monitored business, to actually take a look at what's going on with your air quality, your security, and all the other stuff that goes on in the homes through home automation. So let's start here with our Z-Wave model. Okay, so basically the way Z-Wave works, as I mentioned before, is there's a hub in the house or in the building that communicates back to a central location, which allows them to take a look at everything going on. In addition to, the homeowner has a way to access it themselves, but everything in that house, in this system, needs to have the Z-Wave capability chips inside. So the thermostat would have a specific one, the lights would have another, the security system would have another, and they'd all speak back to a centralized hub. What's really nice now is we moved up to what's called Z-Wave Plus, which is the newest way. Just know that we're always backwards compatible, but the older stuff isn't forwards compatible. So basically using the T6 Z-Wave will accomplish that for you. Moving on, we're going to talk about Wi-Fi. Now here's where things get a little confusing from the most part that we see out there. And really what it is that the Wi-Fi, it uses the Wi-Fi signal within the house, which most homes have a Wi-Fi router these days. and it will communicate back to that. Then the apps translate the language so that the internet understands it, and then you can use your phone to make the temperature go up and down or control however you want to. It's a very inexpensive way to start automating a home where there's not much infrastructure needed other than that router, and then you can add other things different in. What's really nice about the Honeywell Home app and the Total Connect Comfort is we set it up with an open protocol that allows us to work with whatever internet or home automation system that you choose. And if today you have one type of phone, and it doesn't matter that in 3 years you may decide to have a different brand or something else, that we allow it to open and actually talk in there. And it also allows you to do that in an inexpensive way. There's not a lot of invasive ways. Use your current system. Okay. Another nice thing also is, before I start getting into the individual smart or Wi-Fi enabled thermostats that we have in our portfolio, is what's unique to the Honeywell is we have what we call the K terminal on all of the thermostats that I'll talk about from the smart, and that allows us to provide power to the thermostats without using power stealing, which is a best is like a best practice, so to speak. So if you go into a house that wants to upgrade to a Wi-Fi thermostat and you only have 4 wires in the wall, the C-wire adapter is a great option for all these thermostats to basically take your Y and G wire and split the signal across K, and that goes right into the back of the thermostat. The C-wire adapter, which is a THP 9045A 1098, is relatively inexpensive, and it's very fast. You do all the wiring down to the equipment, and you're set to go. You won't. And why it's a best practice is because the way power stealing thermostats work is that they charge a battery in the thermostat when the system is not running. If you get into situations of long cold periods or long hot periods and the system runs more, battery does not get properly charged, and then you may have problems with your customers down the road where they're hot or where the system has failed because the battery has gone dead. So very good, and the reason why these thermostats need power is because that communication with a Wi-Fi signal is not a constant, and therefore there's a lot of communication back and forth. So it's constantly looking for it, and that does draw power. So we started our portfolio here off with the T6 Pro Smart Series. We have 2 models. We have the TH6320WF 2003. That allows you for up to 3 heats, 2 cools. It's dual fuel enabled. It has a ventilation control, and yet again, I told you this before, it is a C-wire. It also comes with a 5-year warranty. And then we have the 6220, which is a 2-heat, 1-cool heat pump, or 2-heat, 2-cool conventional. Really what we do is, the reason there's 2 thermostats in this space is that we've given you the opportunity at a price point that the rest of the market really doesn't support at a lower, basically gives you the capability of adding Wi-Fi to a much more basic structure and being more cost effective rather than having to go with a super expensive type thermostat. This is really good for if you're a contractor that likes to use bundles in their sales process. This is a very easy way to give that customer that next level at a very price effective way, and they're full of plenty of features. So what accessories does it kind of come with? Okay, and then there's also ones that it comes in the box. Before we get to the slide here, in the box you get the J-Box adapter, the universal wall plate, all the things you need to do the job, and then there's some extra accessories, which are these here listed on the screen. We have a larger decorative wall plate, as you can see there on the top. You can use indoor sensors and outdoor sensors, and then also there's the C-wire adapter that we talked about earlier. Okay, just some other features that I want to go over on the 6320. You have the ability to have a balance point for low outdoor temp. You can lock out auxiliary heat. There's a ventilation option for outdoor temperature. All these things you're going to need the outdoor sensor for, or the use of AccuWeather as internet weather in order to set those points, which is really convenient. And also, yet again, a lot of situations where you don't have that capability to run that outdoor wire, we can use that using the internet to provide that. 6220, for where it is, does not do dual fuel, but does have electric auxiliary heat, and we can lock out on high temperature. there are alerts and reminders. This is going to come up a couple times in our conversation today, but just keep in mind that we have lots of alerts and customizable reminders throughout our thermostat portfolio. Here are some of the ones that the T6 has. You know, clear the humidifier tank, or replace pads, filters, ventilator core, all the different things that you would need to do, and that basically is set up through the app and on the thermostat face itself. They can set all those to it. It's really nice. Set up date and time, but if it's connected to Wi-Fi, you won't need to do all that. You can also register the thermostat directly from the wall. Okay. The next of ours, and this is one of my favorite thermostats out there, which is the VisionPRO 8000 Smart, the TH8321 WF1001. This is really like a workhorse thermostat in our portfolio, in the fact that it is both residential and light commercial control. You have a lot of flexibility here, 3 heats, 2 cools. It's dual fuel enabled, has a 5-year warranty, and also comes with a set of 1 IAQ terminals. And then we can take care of that there. And then in the light commercial size, it has the capability of handling economizers and others like that. And you can also set it up for occupied, unoccupied. Just want to show you here, so the special part here is the sensor input, the S1s that are automatically in the back and the wiring. You can set those S1s to either be an indoor sensor, which is a C7189U. Just keep in mind that Ohm's law applies in this scenario on the wiring, so make sure that you get that correct, where you just can't run them all in there. And you can actually have up to 5 in this sense, and then they'll do an averaging. And then also can use the TR21A 20K averaging indoor sensors, which is also applicable here as well. And then you also, if you wanted to run for a dual fuel scenario, run the outdoor C7089U 1006. You can run that out there and then have direct, direct for your temperature set point for the outside. What's really nice about the AccuWeather option for all of the thermostats I'm going to talk about today is, for the most part, the way it works is it finds the 2 closest municipal buildings to the location that the thermostat is, and then runs the averages off of those. It's the same technology that's in your phone if you were to look up the weather today and find out what's going on where you are. Use the same thing, and again, a lot of times getting an outdoor sensor to the north side of the building and in the shade can be very complicated. This gives you another avenue. You can set custom reminders on all different types here, and you can also put advertisements in as well. One of them being, say, okay, call us for fall tune-up special or something to that effect. Service reminders there. This is also a really good thermostat in the fact that it has a lockout type setup where you can do like either a full lockout, where you can lock out the thermostat altogether where no one has access to it other than the person that holds the code. You can do a semi-lockout, which is kind of like the morphine drip at the in the hospital. You can hit the button as many times as you want, but whoever has set it for the max number of degrees up and down, it'll do that. And from personal use, I've used this a lot in those types of situations, particularly a school system that had a lot of mobile trailers. This allowed them to do that and actually keep their energy costs under control. That's a really nice feature. You also don't need that sign out there that says, please don't touch our thermostat, which is also a nice thing, and not needing the plastic cover. We do have the plastic cover available for a lockbox, but know that you can lock the screen and not have that. Looking here, automatic software updates through the Wi-Fi signal. So if we make a change to how we want it to operate, or I would say there's a change to the ASHRAE code, it'll automatically upgrade itself and saves you time and money from sending out. Just keep in mind on this one, we got to have 24 volts, so we can use that C-wire adapter here as well. And there are no batteries on this one, so we got to keep it constantly powered. We'll talk about the RedLINK version of this later, but just keep in mind there. And then here, another popular option here is the Wi-Fi 9000 Smart. It's a 3 heat 2 cool again, 7-day programmable, and has customizable color with 14 different color types. Really nice to match what's going on the wall. It looks really, really sharp. There's another part to this thermostat that is really nice. This is something I would like you to reach out to your Resideo CDSs or RDRs about, but it has it has remote access through Androids and apps and all stuff that you can see there for scheduling, stuff like that. We also have a number of energy partners that use this 9000 for their logic and as far as getting the best operation for energy savings. So you have that multiple location customer, like a sports bars or stuff like that, where there are multiple locations and they can use the energy savings. We have a number of partners that can help us do that. It's also internet synchronized clock and all that data. It's pretty much a set it and forget it type thermostat, and it looks very sharp on the wall. We're going to move into our communication protocol, which is the RedLink wireless technology or protocol, and we're going to roll through the thermostats that work on this. It's important to know that every thermostat we just talked about from the smart perspective or Wi-Fi, that you need wires to run to communicate within the HVAC equipment. So you need to have running wires leaving the thermostat, go down to the air handler, out to the outdoor unit or rooftop or whatever else you got going on there. You need wires to run to all the sensors, and that's all great when you're in case of building from new or have the wires in the wall. But we also know that as systems get upgraded and become more, and the movement to heat pumps, which has become super popular, and basically changing configurations, that's not always the cost of running wires can be excessive. Okay, but the smart ones are very good for using basically just getting basic Wi-Fi. We've developed RedLink for this purpose particularly, because when you come up with if you were as a contractor having to price out running wires and going through walls and doing all this type of materials like that, it becomes very expensive. So we have our RedLink is a radio signal that's optimized. It's a proprietary network, and it communicates between all the different parts within the system without the need to running wires. Okay, and then we use a variety of different frequencies, so you don't have to worry about overlap or interference or all the different stuff like that. And it's a really robust system that basically came out of our security type businesses. Okay, I'm just kind of looking more here, but the speed and reliability is all there, and it communicates in between. But it really doesn't mean that now that it's wireless that you can pick it up and the computer needs to understand. So what you need to do for everything in order to give it connectivity from here on out, you would need to add what's called the RedLink Internet Gateway. We will refer to it as the RIG from time to time, just to understand. Part number on that is the THM 6000R 7001. It's very easy to do. Basically, it's an accessory that will add, and then it comes with the Ethernet cable, and it plugs right in the back of a Wi-Fi router, or however these systems are set up within the house or in a small building or office. This is really great when Wi-Fi is not great. Signal throughout the house is an awesome alternative to doing that by putting in using a RedLink system and then going directly into the internet system that's out there. And then it supports all of our thermostats, which allows you to have access to the system. Think of it this way, because this question comes up to me personally a ton, is do I need a RedLink internet? Do I need a rig on everything that I do? Okay. In the case of smart or Wi-Fi thermostats, no, you don't need it at all. In the case of RedLink, you will need it to basically allow the internet to understand the RedLink signal. We're going to start out with our most economical way, which is the RedLink Focus Pro 5000. It's a non-programmable option. This is completely battery powered. So you get in that scenario where, say, a customer says, I really want to move the thermostat from the hallway into my room. This is a very effective way of moving or relocating a thermostat into the parts of the home that makes more sense than where the traditional locations are. It is battery powered, like I said. It's large backlit display. It's easy to replace the batteries, and it's pretty simple to set up. We provide it in 2 kit forms. Okay, the first one includes the gateway, so you'll get the thermostat, the non-programmable Focus Pro, an equipment interface module, which is where you do all the wiring down at the equipment, where you have the wires are all accessible, and then it comes with the RA sensor and then also the internet gateway. And that's all in one, and you're set and you're ready to go, and that makes that system Energy Star compliant right there when you add the internet gateway. The other option is the 1000 kit, where you don't won't need to, where it doesn't come with the internet gateway. Just keep in mind when we put these kits together, they're for your convenience factor, but also know that there is some savings when you buy the kit form as opposed to a la carte. Then we also have the Focus Pro 6000. So that's a programmable. It's a 511 or a 52 large display, just like you see here before, battery powered. It's easy to do. It's 3 heat, 2 cools, and 2 heat, 2 cool conventional. And then we have multiple kits for this as well. In the case of dual fuel, you have the access to the outdoor sensor as well. And then we have multiple kits here that include both the outdoor sensor and the gateway, just the gateway or just the kit altogether. So just know that there's one component to that, and you're done. All right, back to the VisionPRO 8000 with RedLink. And here's the part number on that is a TH8321 R1001. It's important to note in the nomenclature now that if there's an R in the middle of the part number, that means that it is RedLink and then it is compatible. Don't confuse it with the 8000 Smart, which looks identical to it. A lot of the capabilities are the same. Just know that that one you need to fully wire the system. In this case, you will not need to. We have multiple variances of it. The 8321 allows you to has indoor air quality component to it. And then you can also choose it in 8320. The 0 in the 8320 means that there is no IAQ control. And then we also have a simple 1 heat, 1 cool model, which is for real basic stuff when you've just needed that and the batteries. And what's really cool about this thermostat, if you add the THM5421R equipment interface module, it explodes in capability, both on the commercial side and residential side, giving you up to 4 heats. You can actually go to 4 heats, 4 cools with this scenario, which is may not need it every day, but is really nice that you're able to do that. It's easy to set up. It's all in plain English when you're doing a setup. So knowing as a contractor or whoever's doing the work on there can work through. Won't need that little small install manual because everything explained there. If you need help, what's really nice is there's the help button. You just hit that and it explains everything that's on the page that you would need to do. It also has the capability of being upgraded, or you can do, if you've got a large project with multiple 8000s, you can put the information that's needed for the setup on one MicroSD card and then upload all of them. So say you're doing a 20 thermostat job out there, you can set it up once and just roll through. It also allows you to put in your information as a dealer information, and it just makes the time easy for setup and then reduces setup errors. Okay, give you an idea how RedLink works here. So in the case of with wired equipment, the 8000 would wire down to the equipment, and then we have a number of accessories available. Whether it's the outdoor sensor, which you see up there on the roof to the left, we have ventilation controls and the PCC, which is a portable comfort. Knowing that in this case, for the 8000 thermostat, can be the host of a number of RedLink enabled accessories. Another one being the indoor sensor, which is seen there kind of upstairs there. Know in this scenario that you can use up to 5 of those and do averaging on humidity and temperature. If you remove the thermostat face, you can actually have a 6th. So a really good situation for that is, say someone has an office, you can locate that thermostat in an office and then take care of the space out there that they're looking for without giving access to it. And then also know that in case that we can do this wirelessly, if you want to relocate a thermostat and you have the EIM, which gives you the over the 6000 and 5000 we talked about earlier, gives you the capability of controlling a number of IAQ devices, whether they're humidifiers, dehumidifiers, ventilation. And then we also have a newer, which is called the ERM. It's not pictured here, but it's good for you to know that if you're upgrading, say, outside from a AC unit to a heat pump, which is very common in my part of the world, we have a equipment remote module, which allows you to do that, supplies power out there, and then you won't need to run the 8 wire sets or the additional wire sets outside. So really nice setup. The 8000 has a lot of capability. Okay, and then here we go in zoning. All of our RedLink thermostats we're going to talk about today can work with our zoning system. There's another class that we have out there. Take a look at it online and also attend to a later webinar on it. It allows you to basically use zoning the same way using RedLink, so you can cut down on all that wiring. We have a number of dry contacts for alerts that you can set up however you need it to do, whether it's full drain pans, all the way down to custom alerts, however you want to do. Like I said, this is you're starting to really get into controls here for the building when you use an 8000, and there's a lot of flexibility there. I just want to go real quick, the universal outputs, when you're just using the 8000 all by itself, you have one. And then you have to choose between what you want to wire to it, whether it's humidification or ventilation or a stage 3 cooling, okay, and then backup for radiant heat. Now, if you add the EIM, equipment interface module that we were talking about earlier, you can have everything you want, all right? You can add the humidification, dehumidification, and ventilation, the additional cooling stages, and geothermal heat. So just keep in mind, figure out what your system requirements are, and then you can upgrade very easily here. Okay, just a little quick information on the MicroSD card, how you do it. Okay, basically you can set everything up from the computer. If you go to the Forward Thinking site there, you can actually set up and actually go through the screens, do all the setup, and then plug the MicroSD card and then transfer it over there. You can also add your information as well. All right, more custom reminders, the same ones as before in the Smart, in the 8000 Smart. And here are light commercial features. This is, like I said, it's really, this is a good thermostat. That's why you see it around, and everyone has been using it for a long time. It's very robust. You have temporary override, so you don't have to do a permanent hold. You have range stops. Like I explained that kind of earlier. Like if you want to get it to a point where it only goes up to some of degrees, you can do that. You got your keypad lockout, occupancy, occupied, unoccupied, scheduling and custom events. And then they can also do multiple locations with this thermostat through the Total Connect Comfort app. Moving on, this is our newest thermostat in the portfolio, as the T10 Pro with Smart RedLink thermostat. This is kind of a hybrid. It's our first one that is what we would consider to be dual band. And what do I mean by that? Is that this one is a case where it could do the Wi-Fi, adding Wi-Fi to the system without needing a rig. The technology is getting to the point where we can shrink it down and not need the extra accessory. But this has a lot of extra features out there that I'll get to in a minute. That really makes this thermostat really a problem solver for a lot of our customers out there. So it's a THX321WF2001W. Comes in the kit is the thermostat, one sensor, which I'll explain how that sensor works here. The UWP that you got used to with the T series and a J-Box adapter. It's available without the sensor if you want to a la carte that to your customers. And then the sensors, the RedLink 3.0 indoor sensors, which have a lot of capability over our older 2.0, come in packs of 2. So here's its capability. It's 3 heats, 2 cools, 2 heat, 2 cool conventional. Has dual fill capability, auxiliary heat lockout, and then you have one indoor air quality terminal that you can use for humidification, dehumidification, or ventilation. And then here's an extra thing, little bonus to it. If you choose humidification or ventilation as one of your options, we give you a half option, which I like to call it, which allows you to dehumidify using the system. So the algorithm is in there to do that, where we can overcool, and I'll explain it a little bit here, but kind of gives you a lot more flexibility at a very, very competitive price. This one does need to be wired, so we talked about it's kind of like a hybrid between RedLink and Smart, in the fact that you do need to run the wires down to the equipment. It's just that the RedLink 3.0 sensors are the wireless portion, but you can use it has the K terminal as before, and you can use the C-wire adapter. Okay, using the thermostat is about as easy as possible. It is set up to be like your smartphone. It looks and holds the same way, and the way you interact with it is the same. And there's a lot of information up there that the customer can take a look at. And we'll look at some screenshots here in a moment. But You see a desired temperature, everything here. And when you look at this screen, it's going to look exactly as it does on that app. Setup is simple as can be. Walk through the steps. It's all written there. If there's ever a part where you do not understand the question, you can just hit the little eye icon up there in the top right corner, and bang, everything you need to know is right there to answer your question. What's also nice is it flows back and forth as you need to do stuff, so that you don't have to start with ISU 1 and work all the way through and say something didn't go right, or you found out you needed to go back. You can go directly to that. So it's very interactive. It also gives you the capability of when it locks out questions once you answer them. So your setup time is very, very, is reduced dramatically because, okay, said it's going to be a heat pump. You're not going to be bothering with any of the other questions that do not apply. Okay, now here's the best part of this is the RedLink 3.0 sensors. Okay, the other RedLink devices we're talking about is what's 2.0. As we're upgrading our system, 3.0 is the newest version or the latest and greatest to RedLink, and we're going to be adding accessories, moving forward. So this gives you capability, but these sensors are really nice in the fact that they take both temperature, humidity, and motion or occupancy, and then we can average temperatures throughout or place priority. This is really where we get into the fact that we, for years, have always reacted to our houses instead of our houses reacted to us. This gives you that capability now and actually helps you and your customers, particularly the ones that have always had like a room that they kind of live with, whether it's too hot or too cold, and you didn't really have another way, and zoning is just not feasible in a scenario. That's a very invasive process. This is kind of like having a thermostat in your pocket as you walk around. It's pretty nice. In addition to, it's more energy effective because what do we do now? If I'm in a room that the thermostat's not in, and it's hot or cold, what do? I go back to the thermostat on my phone and I push it up, a few degrees or down a few degrees and try to guess where I need to be. Now we can take that guesswork right out of it. Okay, adding the wires is very seamless. It's very simple. It'll even tell you where to mount them on the wall, which is going to be 5 feet off the floor and then on an interior wall. And you walk through and then just make sure, best practice, make sure you name where the sensor is. That'll really help when it comes to when I talk about later on where the priorities are, but also when you got to go and do batteries or anything like that, you need to know where you put them. Okay, and it's pretty simple. Just walk right through, and it's customizable, and we have a whole bunch of preloaded in there. Okay, so how does this work? All right, we basically could do it 3 ways, and I'm going to give you a scenario and walk through the scenario. Traditionally, if you come home back when before the whole COVID thing, the kids would get off the bus at 4 o'clock or so, and they would go to a certain room in the house, and you would be in a different room in the house, and your spouse would be in another, and whatever the thermostat was set at, you'd have a time base in there, and it would just be running to where it is. So now knowing that you have that, you can now select those rooms and work through the day as you work throughout your house as you live in it. And the first way, it's done in 3, I call it 3 different ways of priority. The first one is pretty much a manual way. You say, all right, I'm in the living room or I'm in the family room. You touch and by the way, everything you see here on the screen is how it looks on both the thermostat and on the app. And touch it there, say I'm in the living room and the kids are in the family room, and boom, and the system will run until the average of those 2 have satisfied. Second way is, okay, go back to our time-based scenarios. Say, okay, it's 4 o'clock, I want living room and family room selected, and then in the evening when I go to bed, I want all the bedrooms selected, and you set it in that way. And that works pretty well, and it'll run the averages. What you'll see is when you first put this thermostat in, you're going to see variances in temperatures throughout all the house. And it's amazing to watch over 30 days as the thermostat learns and does things, and as it does this averaging, how much tighter those get throughout the house. And the next way is what we call active rooms or priority, using that motion sensor that we talked about. Did you see that there's a little green guy there on the screen? Basically how it works is when a room is occupied longer than 5 minutes by someone who's more than 80 pounds, that's an important distinction. If you got a little one running around below 80 pounds, you're not messing with the system at all. Or if you have a large animal or dog, anything going around, it's all based on that. If you occupy for longer than 5 minutes, it becomes an active room and stays active until someone has left it for longer than 5 minutes. Pretty nifty. Like I said, you interact, but won't cause other problems because you may be bouncing in or out of the room, or you had a little one that's running through every room all the time. Scheduling on this device is very simple. It's based on however the customer wants to interact with their thermostat, whether it is using the geofencing option or time-based or manually doing it. There's plenty there. Wake priority, you can set all that kind of stuff as well. If you want to wake at a different temperature than when you go to bed, you have all that flexibility. The information button, I was talking about that earlier. If you're ever stuck or anyone is stuck at any point, hit that button and it gives you the full explanation of what it is. Okay. How does it look? So here's some things, just give you an idea. When it is the first all the way to the left, you have an option between analog style, which, believe it or not, is pretty popular selection point of the analog clock being up there. But if you don't choose that, you can use the idle screen that you see there in the middle, which just shows the time and the temperature. Then when you're interacting with the thermostat, when you touch it, you get to see directly all the information that's needed. You can just touch it with your finger. And then when it is in active mode, when it's idle, it's just the numbers are color coded. And then if it's active, then the full screen changes color. Same for heat, but it'll be orange in that aspect. Okay, customize an interactive display. All right, and again, you can set this thermostat to be any brightness that you want, and then you can also, if depending on the room that it's in, you can change the backlit as much as you want, and then also set it for time-based, where you say, all right, after 9 o'clock, it's in my bedroom, I don't want to see that light. It'll shut off until somebody wakes it up, which is by actively touching it. And we have this is a really nice feature here. We have a private label program that I'll talk about in a little bit, but here you can put your dealer information in, type it in, or put in your Pro Perks number. And when you put in your Pro Perks, it'll automatically populate. And this way, when the alert comes up, is when it'll say, call Dan's Plumber, and here's the information to do that. It's really great for repeat business. The thermostat has a wired sensor input. We just talked about the indoor sensors, which, by the way, you can add 20 of them, up to 20, and you have a range of 200 feet, which is pretty nice. But you can run the wired sensors if you want. Just keep in mind, if you do that, Ohm's law will apply. Really, this is a good spot, really used for the outdoor sensor. If you do not want to use depending on where you are in the country, if you want to run an outdoor sensor as opposed to using AccuWeather. And again, there's the options there. Okay, humidifier control. This is one that's really dear to my heart, believe it or not. In the past, when you're setting up, frost protection or setting up your humidification or your indoor air quality things, before it was all kind of general. Here it's very specific, and actually there's different ways to operate different types of humidifiers, whether bypass or evaporative or steam type. They'll run a little bit differently based to get the optimal out of it. Here's very simple. You just tell it what type of it is, and if you want to do window protection, the old way was you went to the book, you look for the tightness of the house, and look for your ideal percentage, and then that would generate a number, and you'd have to plug it in. Here's very simple. Just slide the percentage up and down, and it automatically calculates. And that'll eliminate that frost, or condensation you see on the windows. You have dehumidification control as well, where you can wire directly to a whole home dehumidifier. But also know that we have a pretty nice feature where, if that's not applicable, we can do the overcool and run the air conditioner a little bit longer in order to bring that humidity level down. And also ventilation control. You can set it to ASHRAE. The current one is a 62.2. And then if you want to move to the different, I know there's a newer one out there, which is done based on percentage of time. You have that base, you can calculate that yourself and put that in. And then you can turn the system fan on with ventilation, and it'll work there. We can also do lockouts. All right. Wi-Fi remote access. This is in general for all of our thermostats. All of our thermostats that are Wi-Fi work on the 2.4 gigahertz signal. The T10 will work on both 2.4 and 5. If you ever have a common situation comes up that you put a Wi-Fi in there and the house only has 5G, it's very simple as either going to the router or contacting the internet provider and splitting the system, splitting the signal. That works pretty well. T10 will do both. Just so you know the differences, almost everything works on 2.4. You have better range with 2.4, but 5 has a greater bandwidth. In the case of thermostats, traditionally don't need a ton of bandwidth, but it's based on how the house is set up. And the T10 does not require a gateway. The gateway doesn't care which Wi-Fi, because you plug it with using an Ethernet cord into the back of the router or into the Ethernet system, depending whether you're in a light commercial application or whether you're at home in a residence. All right, simple Wi-Fi, easy registration process, very easy to do. Like I said, it walks you through. Also, keep in mind that we don't expect you to be IT people. We have, using our app, you have the contractor mode, which allows you to kind of do the customer handoff, and then also know that we have tech support to help customers with Wi-Fi issues, like not knowing the password or all the different things that comes in it. For you and I, we want to make sure that all the equipment is running and that the home is comfortable, and then the Wi-Fi, hand it over to the IT professionals. Here's just some screenshots of what sensor location and priority look like, and then also your capability to set up those in the app. This will look the same across all of the thermostats as well. So when you're in the app, you can do all the different stuff in addition to what the T10 does. T10 has lots of reminders, just like all of our thermostats, your ability to do that. In addition to, we have auto changeover, and you can set all that up to switch between heating and cooling, and there's a ton of flexibility there. Okay, here's some more reminders, and it's easy to reset the Wi-Fi if somebody else or they changed out the router or whatever is needed. And finally, we're going to come up here. This is our Prestige IAQ. This is a real workhorse for us. It is a dual, kind of like the, I have a coworker that calls it the Chevy truck. It truly is, because when you really get into some issues or have very complex scenarios, this setup here can simplify it and gives you plenty of capability and flexibility. This is a true trades type thermostat, and it's really, it has a lot of capability. It is a 4 heat, 2 cool setup. Go to 3 heat, 2 cool conventional. You can, for commercial configurations, you can set it to 4 cool stages. You can run all at the same time, just like back in the 8000. You can do humidification, dehumidification, and ventilation. In addition to, you can add 2 more IAQ reminders, whether it's a UV light or some sort of filtration. It has full diagnostics, which is really nice in diagnosing what's going on, plus dry contact alerts and performance logs. And this only requires 2 wires. The 2 wires is purely for power of the face of the thermostat. So you can pull it from a transformer, the power, or directly from the equipment. But knowing in a lot of situations, particularly when you're putting in new equipment or retrofitting, there's almost always 2 wires in the wall. This gives you that fantastic capability. All right, here's some of the kits. It comes in kit form because you do need the 2 parts. You can also buy the faces, but that's in the zoning, which will come up in another webinar. But the 5085 kit here, which is the YTHX 9421R 5085, is your most basic one, coming with the thermostat base and the EIM plus 2 duct sensors. The duct sensors are used for calculating delta T and diagnostics, so it's always good to install those. The 5101 is also very popular because you get the outdoor sensor. The outdoor sensor will actually show the outdoor temperature right on the face of the thermostat, in addition to being used for all the background stuff that you would want to know when it comes to dual fuel or whatever scenarios you're going there. And also comes with the duct sensors for diagnostics. This thermostat, very similar to the 9000, you can change, but it has a plethora of colors that you can change it to match very specifically what the wallpaper or wall paint you're addition to. Okay, the 5127 includes the internet gateway. And then one of my favorite kits here, which does a lot and it actually saves you some money also, is the 7001 kit that's listed here. In addition to having everything that's before, it also comes with a wireless indoor sensor. So take a look at which one of those kits that best applies to you, and then you can build it that. Mix and match as bigger jobs get there. I've had jobs with 42 thermostats, and we've built it the way we can do it. Keep in mind that you don't need an outdoor sensor for if you have multiple thermostats. One outdoor sensor is good for up to 16, Prestige systems. Okay, so 16 thermostats, it'll handle that. A gateway is good for 4. So you won't need a gateway for every single one, just every 4 will require the gateway. Okay, color themes, like you talked about it, you can match them up pretty nicely. It's a very nice feature. A little thing to know, in order to keep the information from burning on the screen, at 2 o'clock in the morning, the thermostat will power down and say Honeywell Home, and then power back up. That's not a problem. It's just knowing that it's doing that so you don't have that burned in. You don't burn in the arrows up and down or the time or all this different stuff that you see in a lot of competitor type LED type thermostat faces. All right. You have Delta T alerts like we talked about earlier. And then also when you can upload your logo in there, and then when there's a system alert of some sort, then your information will populate. It's really a nice feature. That's truly the time that homeowners want to see your information, is when something's wrong. And then it tends to be, they tend to look things up. If you're already there and they can see you and make the call, you'll get the call. Okay. Diagnostic, we can take a look at lots of different things. Diagnosing low on refrigerant, dirty burners, running too cold. A lot of that information is now available to you, and you can do some you can do a lot of diagnostics and save yourself time and labor. Okay, same again here. We have the USB stick upload yet again. Gives you that capability. On this one, you can actually put your logo in. It looks pretty nice. And then any kind of updates that you want to do. Okay, yet again, same as before with the S terminals as before. Just know that you have 4 of them, and you can choose them however you need to do. In the commercial mode, you use them also for those additional heats and those additional cools. And then as you set them up, you go into the screens. These are just some screenshots of how easy it is. Notice it goes through the setup of the Prestige thermostat. Okay, and then there's also some nice things also with the dry contacts. One feature I like really is set in the algorithm. Say you have a wet switch set up on a pan under a humidifier. In this case, if that alarm goes off, the Prestige will shut the humidifier off and then keep the system running instead of shutting the whole system down. That's a pretty nice feature. There's countless others. I heard you. If you want to learn more about the Prestige thermostat than what we're covering today, please reach out to your local Resideo, Honeywell Home salesperson. They'll be able to help you through this, and there's a lot that we can do. There's a lot of capability. Okay, and yet again, more universal use for the humidifiers, dehumidifiers, and cooling stages. And smart home partners. This is very important. Across our entire connected portfolio, we have an open protocol like I talked about earlier. Right now, there's roughly 400, I think the last time I checked, maybe 415 or 16 different home automation partners that are out there. You kind of know who the main ones are, but just know that it's out there, that our thermostats and our stuff will work in those systems, and it works pretty well. T10 has HomeKit will become available in the very short future, but other than that, you're good to go and asking Alexa or Google System, Samsung, and IFTT, and many more. So it's really a nice feature. Knowing, I put this out there. A common question that comes to me is, well, what happens when the technology upgrades? Well, that's great. In this case, we don't have to change the thermostat out because there's a new Alexa. It'll work from here on out. You don't have to worry about what phone the customer has. You never have to ask them what phone do you have or what phone you think you're going to use. And we have a very nice free program that we have, which is the Thermostat Private Labeling Program. Basically, you can go to your distributor and have your name added printed right on the face of the T-Series, the 8000s, and the Focus Pros. In the case of the T10, a really nice feature is all you have to do is put in your Pro Perks number, and it'll automatically populate, and then the same for the Prestige as well, and the Wi-Fi 9000.
Thank you, John, for walking us through that overview of our connected thermostat portfolio. We've got a lot of options to share, as all of you can hear. So if you're interested in finding more information on the products that John covered today during our training, please make sure to visit our Resideo Pro website. We are adding new features about all of our solutions every day to this site, so please be sure to refer back to this new website for more information. We're going to transition now to answering some common questions that our sales team hears quite frequently about connected thermostats. We're going to bring in Charles Davidson, who is one of our contractor development specialists in the Dallas market. We've also got Lou McKay on the line, who is one of our distributor sales reps as well. They're going to jump in and join John to answer some of these common questions. As a reminder, please go ahead and ask any question that you may have that came up during the presentation today. Enter that into that Q&A feature. Looks like we're going to go over just a little bit today, folks, but we'll make sure that this recording goes up on the website for you, just in case you're not able to hang on with us, so that you can circle back and hear the answer to these questions. So take it away, gentlemen.
All right, Charles, you want to start and ask the questions?
Sure. Sorry, guys. Thanks, everybody, for attending. I really appreciate it. So the first question we get a lot is how many sensors can be put on the T10? Do you want to go back and forth? You just want me to answer?
Yeah, just ask me the question. So what we'll do here is that on the T10, you add up to 20, and it'll do either averaging or direct sensing, and then you have a 200-foot range on those. So you'll be able to cover pretty much any house that we got out there on a single system.
Perfect. And then what frequency will the T10 run off?
So you can do the frequency. T10 uses a wired protocol, so you run wires to all the equipment, and then for the Wi-Fi, it will both do 2.4 or 5 gigahertz.
Awesome. And we get this a lot in the field. So will the T10 work with previous RedLINK accessories?
Hey, Lou, you want to take that?
Sure. Yes. The T10 is RedLINK 3.0, little different FM bandwidth to work across the globe with our RedLINK. So none of the existing 2.0 or legacy RedLINK will work with the T10. So that's a standalone platform.
Awesome. And I'll go to one of the Q&As also. So Carl asked, how many VisionPRO 8000s can be put on one gateway?
So the answer to that is...
Go ahead. Go ahead, John.
All right. So yeah, you can do, each gateway can handle up to 4 RedLINK systems. So if it's a case of the 8000 particularly, 4 8000s. And then if it's a zoning, 4 boards. So in that case, it could be, depending on how many thermostats are then connected to that zoning board. So think of it always as 4 systems.
I will add one more caveat to that. If you've got a large commercial application where you have limitations on how many gateways you can add to the building based upon the infrastructure, there is another advantage we have. It's a Jace controller, but that gets into a deeper discussion where you can do 36. So if you have an application like that, please reach out to local reps.
Thanks, Lou.
All right, one more for the Q&A. Can geofencing be done with more than one phone?
Yes, and here's how that works. So you can have multiple phones within the geofence. Just know that there's always one account holder who would be the master of it, and then the rest are all invitees. So you have a master account, and then all the others would be set up as I invited you to. So in the case of my family, I would be the master account holder, and then my wife would have one set to her phone, and then the children would all have their others. And that's anyone who's in the group. And then the way it works is the first of the phones to enter the circle up brings the system up, and then the last of the phones assigned to the thermostat to leave brings it down.
Perfect. How many sensors can a RedLINK system use at one time?
Why don't you grab that one, Lou?
So if you're talking on a VisionPRO or Prestige, you can use the wireless sensors. You can use up to 5 if the thermostat's part of the calculation, or you can use 6 if you take the stat out of the calculation. And again, they will average between all of those, and no Ohm's law applies as it would with wired.
Okay. Perfect. Where in a T-Series line thermostats does Wi-Fi start?
So it starts with the T6, which is the TH6220WF, and then works its way up there to the 6320, and then the T10.
Okay. Can you lock out thermostat screens?
Yes, you can. So we have different options of how you can lock a screen. A lot of times I found that if you fully lock a screen, people get upset about it and they start to figure out ways how to cheat, either with a lighter or a frozen bag of peas or something like that. But we do have screen locks that you can do. Range stops is also an option.
Do you need a wired sensor for dual fuel?
So the answer, depending on the thermostat, it is an option that you can use. But no, the answer is you don't have to. You can use the AccuWeather for the Wi-Fi smart thermostats. If you want to be more down to precise, you can run that wired outdoor sensor. And in the case of the RedLinks, you would use the wireless outdoor sensor.
Okay, I'll go to one of the Q&As here from Kelly Rafferty. One of the questions that surfaces quite often has to do with the averaging sensors, mostly with the VisionPRO stats. How many can you have? What type? 10K or 20K? Is the sensor stat included in the count? The install manuals aren't detailed enough. Would be nice to see more detail in the manuals.
Yeah, so on the 8000, you can choose 10K or 20K. If you're using a wired sensor, Ohm's law applies. So it works by square root. So if I have the sensor and the stat, I start out with 1. Once I go past 1, it jumps to 4 and then 9. Now, there is a deep dive that we can share with you. It's our product data book on the VisionPRO and the Prestige that gets into the actual wiring and how it's done to run in series or parallel. And it explains that in detail. So it cleans up that story, let's say. I will say that if you do not pick the right 10K or 20K, the thermostat will read 99 degrees. So you'll know that I picked the wrong one depending on the sensor that I chose.
And a good location to find that detailed data manual is at forwardthinking.honeywellhome.com. It's a good resource where you can pull that manual for both the Prestige and the VisionPRO 8000.
All right, is everything available in one app?
So the answer is yes and no. Today there's 2 apps. It is the Honeywell Home app and the Total Connect Comfort. The T-Series works on the Honeywell Home, but also keep in mind that you can, if you have a Total Connect Comfort smart thermostat, whether it's the 9000 or the 8000, you can migrate that today into the Honeywell Home, and then in the future the whole thing will be merged together. But right now, anything that uses the rig will stay on the TCC only app. But as we quietly move things over, you also have other capabilities of cameras and leak detectors and other security type stuff as well.
Awesome. And we only have a few questions left, so if you have other questions, please type them in the Q&A and we'll get them answered while we're all on here. Are all thermostats Energy Star rated? The
answer is yeah. All the smart thermostats or RedLink, when they have a rig, are Energy Star rated. The unconnected ones, which are mainly thought to be that you could set it and leave it, now having Wi-Fi or remote access to the thermostat, all of ours are Energy Star rated.
Yeah, one thing that John brought up there is that Energy Star means all the utility companies have demand response capabilities and discounts. All of our Wi-Fi stats are demand response capable to take advantage of those lower ratings for the consumer and get a lower price with demand response. In the old days, it was a switch that actually shut the compressor off. Now they can throttle it down by maybe a degree and the customer will not notice anything at all, but the utility company can shed load with that. Energy Star is not available on any thermostat, including ours or competitors. As long as you can put a stat in permanent hold, Energy Star went away.
Okay. How many IAQ products will a T10 and a Prestige IAQ support?
So on the T10, you can handle 1, or what I call 1.5. You can do 1 wired. And then if you choose to dehumidify, you can use dehumidify through the system. Prestige can do 3 wired, whether humidification, dehumidification, and ventilation, and in addition to have service reminders and efficiency running for UV lights and filtration.
Awesome. And we get this quite a lot. I mean, this might be one of the most common questions we get. What is the best way to boost a Wi-Fi signal?
Okay, so the best thing to understand is how the Wi-Fi signal is through the house. So common way is with a 2.4 gigahertz is that, okay, if you got a thermostat in a location that is not getting reception from the Wi-Fi router, the best way is to move the router. Sometimes it's just as easy as moving over a few inches. It's all about how the house reacts to that signal. So that's the best way. If you get into a situation, which I've run into a number of times, where firewalls and some other stuff that are out there, going to a RedLINK thermostat with the rig is another option because you're plugging the rig directly into the Ethernet, and then it does not worry about the signal strength of the of Wi-Fi in the building.
Yeah, John, you bring up a great point there. A lot of older houses, older developments have horsehair lath walls where it sucks up Wi-Fi signal like a sponge, and RedLINK really just goes right through it like a hot knife through butter. It really works really well, and it gives you a lot of options. Also, when you use a gateway, if you're doing in light commercial, sometimes a bank or an office will not let you use a Wi-Fi product, but they will let you use the internet gateway. It has a higher security protocol.
All right. Any other questions that want to be put in the Q&A before we sign off? Give you all a few seconds. And then also, John, I wanted to talk to ask you about the date code on how to lock the computer, or not computer, sorry, the thermostats.
Okay, so the date, we have a number of different ways the way the date code works. So traditionally what we want to do is anything that the homeowner that we do not want them getting involved in, which is basically the setup and the stuff that we do as professionals that we will work on. Depending on the thermostat, if it's locked or if you need to get into there, putting in the date code, which is the 4-digit number on the back plate, on the red plate that's on the back, you can put that in and that unlocks it. In the case of a T series, it's 1234 unlocks it. T6 Wi-Fi is the date code and take 1234 plus the date code and add those two numbers together, and the answer will unlock it. That's really useful when someone locks a thermostat and you don't know what they made the password. So that's the way to get in there. And Prestige and 8000, it is knowing the date code.
Yeah, so the T6 Wi-Fi, we get that a lot. So the 1234 plus the date code. A lot of people are trying to put the 1234 and then the date code. There's only a spot for 4 numbers. So keep in mind that you add those 2 numbers together. So.
Yep. All right, Jamie, you want to take this last one?
Thanks so much to Charles and Lou for jumping in and answering those questions for us and managing the Q&A. Much appreciated. And thanks to John for leading our technical training today for our connected thermostat portfolio. Please make sure that you join us every week on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time for our standing Resideo customer webinar series. Next week, we are featuring a training on our hydronic fan coil and fill valves. This information is going to be up on the website shortly, so please make sure to have plans to join us next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time for our next training. We will, again, like I said, have the October series of trainings posted to the website shortly. Please make sure to visit resideo.com/webinars for more information on those upcoming sessions, as well as the recorded versions of our previous trainings on that site as well, underneath the webinar recordings tab. And then one final reminder to our contractors who did not include your NATE ID on your registration form and you would like credit for today's session, please go ahead and send your first name, your last name, your NATE ID number in an email to homes.university@resideo.com within 1 week from today's live webinar session, and we will make sure that you get credit for attending this session. And then 2 final things to note as our training session ends today. You are going to be prompted to complete a survey regarding this training session. Please take a few moments to provide us with your feedback on this training session today. We are looking forward to offering these sessions in the future and want to make sure that we are providing great content for you. If you have feedback on today's session, we encourage you to fill out that survey, as well as provide us with any feedback on upcoming topics you'd like to see us cover. And then also you're going to receive an email from us in just a few days that includes some follow-up information on our connected thermostat portfolio, as well as a link to the website for information on our future webinars as well. So be on the lookout for that email. Thank you all for joining today's Resideo webinar session on connected thermostats. Please make sure to join us next week on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time for our next training. Have a great day, everyone.